Welcome, I am Sean, and this is episode 26 of BL4 Lore, and today we are heading to the Upper Cathedral Ward. Alright, I will explain how I ended up at this lamp in just a moment, but for now I just wanted to point out that this is the Grand Cathedral below where we've fought Vikram Amelia, and being the Upper Cathedral Ward, it is above it because everything in Bloodborne is vertical. There's a few little squid babies, and you might be wondering, as I mentioned, why I ended up at this lamp. Well, I've actually unlocked most of this level. I played through here earlier when I was fighting Logarius to get the Cosmic Eye Watcher badge, but I will give a tour, as the area actually took a little bit of effort to get through, and once I was so far in, I just wanted to get it unlocked. So you can see here some kin, and they're all looking toward where Abriatus is, which makes sense depending on what you think their relationship is to Abriatus. I don't believe they are necessarily her children, but as kin, there's a connection there, and they definitely have some Abriatus qualities, so yeah, they're looking toward where we will ultimately fight her. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. Alright. We're going to make our way through this. I'm going to utilize some shortcuts. Yeah, so that is a brain sucker, mind flayer, what have you. And underneath that hood is a bunch of sort of looks like tentacles, but unlike classical mind flayer, it is worth noting, and I will see if I can get a better shot of this, that these tentacle things on their mouth are actually coming out of the mouth, and that they actually, underneath that hood, there is an incision on their head where the horrible tongue appendage thing comes out. So yeah, this is something inside their head, it seems to be. They were most likely humans who have something going on in there. And I died against these guys quite a few times. But once you get their stuff down, they're pretty simple. They just have that additional intensity of the fact that they can one-shot you in BL4. So let's see, you can kind of see the incision there. And this is where I previously got the make contact gesture, which definitely check out the linked Aegon of Astora Bloodborne Let's Talk Lore, where he talks a lot about the sort of maybe the inspiration for this sort of gesture, but in game it's supposed to be a way to make contact with otherworldly beings. So I'd like to take a moment to look at a few items, the first being the Upper Cathedral Key. And this description says, the key to the Upper Cathedral Ward seal. The upper echelons of the Healing Church are formed by the School of Mensis, based in the Unseen Village, and the choir occupying the Upper Cathedral Ward. This key brings one a step closer to the choir. So basically just saying this is where the choir is, but it also is it talks about Mensis and the choir as being separate entities, which I think plays into their history, which we've seen what Mensis is doing, so it's safe to assume that the choir is going about pursuing transcendence in a different way. The next item is the Cosmic Eye Watcher badge, and it says, badge of a member of the choir, elites of the Healing Church. The eye signifies the very cosmos. The choir stumbled upon an epiphany very suddenly and quite by accident. Here we stand, feet planted in the earth, but might the cosmos be very near us, only just above our heads? So, I think this is saying the epiphany that the cosmos was thought of as this ethereal other place, which, based on dreams and stuff, it appears that way, but in Lovecraft, not only are the dreamlands places you can reach by dreams, but they're also physical places out in the world. And I think this is getting at that idea where the cosmos is also, the sky and the cosmos are one. So, these beings, these otherworldly beings, might literally just be from other worlds, just, from space. And I think that's sort of the root of this epiphany, is that you're not just going out to this abstract place. There's this physical location. The dreams aren't just immaterial things, they're actual places. And the last item is the Orphanage key. Key to the Orphanage, birthplace of the choir. The Orphanage, shadowed by the Grand Cathedral, was a place of scholarship and experimentation, where young orphans became potent, unseen thinkers for the healing church. The choir, that would later split the healing church, was a creation of the Orphanage. So this got me thinking about basically the chronology of the choir and what's going on there, and really why the choir was formed to begin with. And I'll have to, I did it on Twitter, I'll do it here. I have to give a shout out to Boko3 on YouTube for being just incredibly helpful, and sort of they always comment on these videos and really add a lot to this discussion. And our discussion we had was very helpful in sort of helping me suss out what is a sort of convoluted series of events. But getting back into the lore, I believe that the chronology of events goes: there was the research hall, which we will cover in the DLC, which gave way to the orphanage, which led to the choir. And I think what happened with the orphanage is that from the research hall, there was the discovery of kinship, and the research hall, what was done there was taken into the orphanage, where that was further developed. And then I believe that an item, we'll get a chalice, the discovery of a chalice, and a few other things that were gotten by developing these unseen thinkers led to the formation of the choir as a separate method to approach transcendence, which is differing from the school of Mensis, which I think is the split that's being talked about. Because at the time of the research hall, prior to the existence of the choir, I think that Mikolash was more involved with the church and they were doing their thing. But I think Mensis sort of went their own way with the Unseen Village, and then as the research in the orphanage ramped up, it caused the formation of the choir as a separate entity. And as we can see by the sort of tortured person, where we got the upper Cathedral Ward key, there's some tension between those factions. I don't think they exactly get along anymore. But so we'll be looking at the orphanage very shortly, but it's with the Celestials. They're developing kin as a means to reach out into the cosmos. And Redgrave also argues that this is a place where you see baby coffins. So probably also a place where they're taking kids, these potent, where young orphans were turned into kin, and maybe even they're using them in Abriatus, maybe even used to harvest, for their blood, which is gross, but it seems very distinct. Read the Pale Blood Hunt for more information about that. I will link to it. But yeah, So you have these celestials that are taken from orphans, and this actually sort of ties up with the Garden of Eyes in Bergenworth, where there's this suggestion that maybe the Garden of Eyes were to be harvested in the same way that the gardens are also to harvest. So let's go check out the celestials. I have a blue-eyed werewolf. But you can fight all these wolves through doorways and all these beasts in this through doorways in this area. So the level of challenge is up to you. I still managed to practically get myself killed doing this. What the heck am I doing? So although this area is filled with a lot of kin, it is evident that the Scourge of Beasts, there are still opportunities to head in what could be considered the opposite direction of kin, which is devolving to the giving into the beastly plane of humanity. So it's one way to look at it. And unfortunately, I missed this wonderful centerpiece that was the hanging chandelier. Trust me, it was wonderful. It fell, it got dark, and that's because all these wolf beasts were hanging off, partying. So, once again, doorways are their ultimate enemy. They will get stuck trying to get through there. But now it is time to pay a visit to the Celestial Emissaries, and they are... My wife described them as, she thought they were like something out of Mario, little Mushroom Kingdom action, but, you know, otherwise they look like aliens. They are the kin. As I described before, orphans turned into celestials for the church to reach out into the cosmos and potentially also harvest them for blood. And I will put right up front here that I have never died in this fight until now. Spoilers. And it's interesting to me. One of my favorite things from a gameplay perspective that I'm getting out of this BL4 run is that it's one thing to I'll watch Lobos Jr. or a few other people who I may link just to see how they approach a fight, because like the lore, there's different ways to approach a fight. But yeah, if you watch, it's one thing to watch someone pop a beast blood pellet and do some bolt paper. It's quite another thing to implement it, especially because you're not paying attention to the actual mechanics of the fight, as I'm demonstrating here, and in this next fight, that there are certain celestials that will actually be tied to the boss health bar that will go and, I guess, sort of look like they're making contact or summoning the larger celestial emissary. But I was not paying attention to any of that because I was just trying to replicate what I saw in a video, which is not how it works. And although it is a slight hurt against my pride to die in such a relatively easy fight normally, I do like that in this BL4 run, it really makes you confront the mechanics of each fight and sort of appreciate how the fights work, because you can't ignore it like you might have been able to previously. Or I'm just terrible, or a combination. But I'm ignoring one of the primary mechanics, which means I should go over and slap those guys because they're tied to the boss health bar. But I get caught up on this other guy. I'm not paying attention to what's going on, and it will cost me momentarily. Slapped to death by aliens. Alright, so now instead of messing around with beast blood pellets and stuff, I'm just gonna go in, actually try and do the fight, and I think it's gonna work a lot better. So I will be covering Abriatus next time. I am trying something new where I'm going to separate out the more significant boss encounters into their own episodes. We'll talk Abriatus lore, we'll talk about the mechanics of the fight, but I'm going to keep that as its own separate thing in case people just want to watch that bit of it, because I think that's worth it, and I think that would be something I would be interested in. So I'm going to start separating out some of these major boss fights. So it's worth noting in this back corner that there's sort of these almost moon presence looking statues in the back. And this will actually come up further in the Nightmare Frontier, and something I would like to look at when it comes to the research hall in the Old Hunters DLC, should I get there, which I very much like to. So this time I'm starting to actually pick up on how the fight goes. Actually observing instead of just trying to copy paste the strategy, and I think it will go better for me. Also, because I'm not tied to the timed nature of my consumables, I'm a little more comfortable to observe the fight and try and remember what's going on. Because this is post commentary once again, so at this moment I'm running around panicking, trying to figure out how exactly you get damage on that boss health bar. Because, in my defense, it had been a while since I'd done the fight. And that's when I notice a few of those little cuties waddling away. Alright. Take a whack. We now have the large celestial emissary, and one interesting theory regarding this is that so where are these guys being summoned from? Like, what exactly is happening? And one idea is that, and I believe this was also from the Aegon video, that they might actually be getting summoned from the Eye's Chalice dungeon, because there are celestial emissaries in there. So that's one interesting thought, because otherwise, not exactly sure. I mean, maybe I don't know. Could be a transformation of sorts, but they're still popping out of the ground. So unless they're grown like potatoes, they have to be coming from somewhere. There you have it. A relatively easy boss, but still have to consider the mechanics of the fight. Whew. Alright. So next time we will move on to Abriatus. Thank you for watching.